Fine, we'll leave it here for now. I'll come to you subsequently for more. That's Ibai Malasan. He's our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent. Let's move on. The Africa Center for Digital Transformation has issued a warning about potential cyber threats that may impact the integrity and security of the 2024 elections. With digital transformation increasingly influencing electoral processes, the risk of cyber attacks has become a critical concern that demands urgent attention and comprehensive strategies, according to the ACDT. In 2016, Ghana faced cyber attacks on the Electoral Commission's website during the elections, leading to temporary shutdowns. The EC acknowledged the attack, but stated that it did not affect the integrity of the election results. Similarly, during the 2020 elections, Ghana also experienced a significant number of cyber threats targeting the electoral process. These included attempts to hack the EC systems and other government websites. Now, the National Communications Authority, the NCA, and the Cybersecurity Authority worked to mitigate these threats, ensuring the elections proceeded without major disruptions. Cyber attacks during elections in West Africa have been a growing concern, with several notable incidents reported in recent years. For the various political parties in Ghana, a breach of election systems may trigger collateral effects on public institutions, the commercial victory of political parties, and of course, influence domestic interests and foreign policy relationships. It is for this reason that the Africa Center for Digital Transformation has called for a concerted effort from all stakeholders to enhance cyber defense mechanisms and ensure the protection of the electoral process this year. Further, Divine S.K. Agbeti is the head of Advanced at the Africa Center for Digital Transformation, and he joins us via Zoom. Mr. Agbeti, good morning to you, and thank you very much for agreeing to speak to us here on Newsroom.
Good morning to all listeners and viewers.
Now, you cite two critical elections, the 2016 elections and the 2020 elections. If what we saw with the voter registration exercise is anything to go by, does it suggest that the Electoral Commission learned from whatever attacks that it experienced in 2016 and in 2020?
Thank you. I do not want to believe that the Electoral Commission has learned anything from the 2016 or 2020, even though in 2020 we were told that they did everything they could to bolster their technology systems to prevent any form of attacks. But as we can remember, in 2016, there was a DDoS attack, or what we call distributed denial of service attack. And that actually disrupted the EC's dissemination of information. And actually, it made the whole process very slow in 2016. And announcing the result was quite critical to that effect. Now, as we approach our 2024 elections, these threats are still coming up because everybody knows that this election is very critical in the country. Both parties, especially both leading parties. In fact, we shouldn't even think about these parties involved. We also have other individuals. For example, we have cyber criminals who would want to hold the whole election to ransom. So they probably are preparing ransomware attacks on these elections. So this is why we would want the EC to prepare and invest into these technologies to ensure that its staff or the staff of the Electoral Commission are properly trained, and everyone who will be working on the election should be trained, especially to avoid clicking links in order to prevent what we call phishing attacks from their end. So we are believing that we needed to, or we believe that we needed to alert the EC and the whole public over this cyber threat so that the country will prepare and make sure that we have a very smooth election without any delays.
But what ways are our cyberspace, or is our cyberspace under threat, especially during the electioneering period?
So they use cyber criminals or adversaries use very simple techniques. First of all, they use what they call phishing, and this one they can target election officials, political parties, and voters. And what they do is they aim to steal sensitive information such as login credentials and personal data. And with this, then they can have access to unauthorized election systems, or they can have unauthorized access to election systems where they are able to manipulate information from that system. This happened, for example, in 2016 within the United States elections. Phishing attacks were used to gain access to emails of the Democratic National Committee, and that is where sensitive informations were actually discovered and used against the Democratic Party in the US, for example. And another form of attack would be the DDoS, as we spoke about. And the DDoS attacks can overwhelm an online election portal, for example, and it makes the elections unavailable, or the election data unavailable to officials. And that is the second one. The third one is the ransomware attacks. And the ransomware can encrypt the critical election data, and it renders it inaccessible unless a ransom is paid. And this is critical because 99% this is not going to come from the New Patriotic Party, or it's not going to come from the NDC. It's going to come from an individual or a cyber gang or a criminal gang who wants to make money out of these elections. So we need to really watch out for such. And then I think another one we also need to look at, for example, is disinformation campaigns.
Why?
If we remember, in 2016, they used disinformation campaigns a lot, especially if we remember just a little clip going around with the Papano, and a lot of false information, false news, fake news going around about the whole thing, and it really disrupted elections around that time. So disinformation campaigns can also be part of this, and this really also occurred in Kenya also in 2017 elections. So using social media and platforms, and then to flood them with fake news, etc. So the Electoral Commission and then all the authorities involved should look out for these threats and work towards them.
So for me as a member of the media, for my brother who is a member of the general public, what roles do we play in safeguarding our cyberspaces?
Thank you. The first thing you should do is avoid clicking links. That is the first thing you should do. When someone sends you an email or a text message with a link, you need to double sure. Ask the person, what link is it? Did you prepare this yourself? What is it about? Be sure of it before you access the link. The second thing you should do is secure your technology systems. For example, those of us who work in very sensitive environments such as the Electoral Commission, we should always make sure that before we leave our screens, the screen is locked. You don't leave it open for anybody or a colleague to have access to it, and stop sharing passwords. Sharing passwords also do not help, because then it may get into the hands of the wrong person, and that person may use that same password to access information. And also adding multiple layers of security, such as multi-factor authentication. Even on our WhatsApp that we use on a daily basis, if you don't use MFA or multi-factor authentication on it, someone can just trick you, and if you are easily deceived, then you're going to accept a code or give them a code back, and they have access to your WhatsApp, or they take over the entire WhatsApp, and then they can use it for what they want. So these are some of the ways we can actually work as everyday users of technology to prevent, or as our responsibility to help prevent any form of cyber attacks.
Okay, Mr. Agbeti, thank you very much. Leaving here for now. We appreciate your time. That's GHOne Agbeti. He's the head of advisory of the Africa Center for Digital Transformation. Let's talk about Ghana's population now.